Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session tonight. A lovely evening to you all. I hope you're having a good weekend as it's rounding up. And it's lovely to share another session with everybody. My name is Titi Oshodi, your host for the Out of the Box series, and we had quite an eventful discussion yesterday on the topic of education, passion for education through teaching. We have honed quite a bit of understanding in the areas from the perspective of somebody who is running an NGO in bridging the gap between those who would like to be effective and produce value, in that area, and also to be able to connect with the people in the right aspects, as it is different with each location and with each school area. So some of the things that we interrogated yesterday was why there is a gap and the ways that those gaps can be bridged. So we talked also to a practitioner, somebody who is a teacher, who also understands the needs of children, ultimately how it is efficient, how it is effective in the lives of the teachers and the children and the parents, bearing the responsibility of each stakeholder in the education industry. Today, we're going to be talking to somebody who is from the government area. Some of these things we cannot do without a proper environment, an enabling environment, and also being able to understand the policies and what provisions are made, are provided, So we're going to be talking to Dayo Israel. Incidentally, he's also somebody who had advocated at a very young age for children. So I'm sure there's a lot that he can understand with what is going on right now. So welcome, Unique Kiddies, welcome Papa T, welcome George Ali. So we're going to be inviting Mr. Dayo Israel in because he is right there waving at me. So okay, so we're just about ready. Hello, Mr. Dayo Israel. Thank you so much for joining us.
How are you?
Can you hear me?
Thanks for having me on the show. Yes, I can hear you very clearly. Can you hear me too?
I can hear you clearly. You are welcome.
Thank you for having me. I see a lot of my friends coming in online as well. Thank you, Femi, for coming and sharing.
Yes, I see that a lot of people have joined in as you came in. That is really good. It's very exciting, and it's also humbling to know that we are interested in what is ahead for us, for our children. We're interested in what sort of arrangement or provision is made for them. And I'm sure that's why a couple of people have joined in right now to listen into this conversation. I'll start by formally introducing you. Like I was telling the guests, our audience, that you have done a lot in the area of advocacy for this particular demography, children. You were once an advocate, and also, as I see, one of the 100 most influential people in African descent under 14. At some point in time, you've been named as one of 50 UK's brightest young leaders. there was something that you also achieved at a very, very young age. You're a member of the British Council Global Changemakers Network, an alumnus of the US Department of National Visitors Leadership Program. Right about now, you are sitting on the board of the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board. As a permanent board member, you're responsible for basic education quality assurance in Lagos State. Fantastic. I think that you're the person that we should be talking to. So, a lot of the people, because we've had various conversations from yesterday, and I'm sure that there are quite a number of questions up in the minds of people that they would like to know. So, you know, in your capacity as a permanent board member, you oversee the quality of teaching and learning in Lagos public primary schools, and you ensure the implementation of the UBEC QA action plan in Lagos, including the administration of QA issues. Can I know what exactly is QA? Help us understand. What is QA?
QA is quality assurance. Yeah, so QA is quality assurance. The government spends millions of money in education every year in the 365 states of Nigeria. The budget so in 2000, Obasanjo started what is known as the Universal Basic Education Program that is meant to provide quality education, basic education for lost me. Okay, I think I lost you there for a bit.
Okay.
Yes.
Back on.
So in year 2000, Obasanjo launched a program called the Universal Basic Education Program.
Okay.
And the goal of the program was to ensure that children of school age have mandatory compulsory education.
Okay.
And that basic education was free, accessible, and compulsory for children and young people.
Okay.
And that was why the program was set. It's called the UBE program. It didn't become a law, didn't have a legal backing until 2004, which is now what is known as the UBEC Act. So UBEC is a national program, Universal Basic Education Program. The domestication of that program is what is now called SUBEB. So there's a federal government-led program called Universal Basic Education to ensure that every child gets access to universal basic education. Now, the domestication of that program in all the states, the UBEC's mini structure in all the states is now what is called SUBEB. So SUBEB is State Universal Basic Education Board.
Right.
It is the state arm of the federal government project. Now, because basic education is both a responsibility of the federal, the state, and the local government, there are parameters that the government has identified to ensure that not only are the children getting education, but they're getting quality education, that they're getting also access to education. And so there are many parameters that the UBEC, for example, has different departments that covers the various parts of teaching and learning for children, the cognitive, the affective, and all psychomotive. And the goal of that is, so there's a social mobilization department that works with parents, that works with civil society, that works with the NGOs, that works with community groups in ensuring that, you know, children get quality education. So, for example, in almost every primary school, there's the parents forum, there's the SBMC, which is School-Based Management Committee, which is association of the parent for the children in those schools and all of that. There's also the School Support Services section, which also ensures monitoring the exams, unified exams, admissions. And before, I know one of your interview guests yesterday was talking about common entrance. That has been scrapped. There's no more common entrance. What we now have is placement exam, placement test, just to know what kind of school to place you to, be it model college or whatever it is, or what, you know, that's what it is now. There is no more common entrance in all our primary schools. So that's the dimension of event. So where I then come in, or where my department comes in, is that we're responsible in ensuring the quality of what is being taught and what is being learned. Okay. So, for example, we have keyway officers who, in the past, we used to be called inspectorate.
Okay.
We are the one that goes into the school and ensure that what the children are going to benefit from is what is being taught and being learned. So, for example, we monitor the teacher. How are the teachers working? How are they teaching the children? What are they teaching? For example, under our department, we administer a program called Jolly Phonics, where we help the teachers to be able to pronounce words perfectly. And what that does is that if the teachers can pronounce the words perfectly, they can teach the children to be able to say the words perfectly. So, you know, we have managed all that. We're also in charge of ensuring that we monitor that teachers actually come to school and they're actually teaching. So we monitor when we go into a school. Part of what we do as quality assurance official is to look at the time book, which is the attendance of the school, and ensure, for example, that, you know, the teachers who are posted to the school are coming to school regularly. So we monitor attendance, we monitor what is being taught, we monitor all the things that a school should be doing to ensure that the children are actually learning what is being taught. We also build the capacities and train the teachers in professional knowledge and skills. Okay. There's different training. You can train in leadership, you can train in management. There's a training department in every suburb that does that. But in quality assurance, we train based on how or what we want the teacher to teach the children. Specialized training is also done by, you know, our quality assurance officers and all of that. So we do Smart Say, we do Jolly Phonics, and a lot of other capacity building. We also monitor, for example, the ambience at which children are learning and make sure that they're perfect, and we make recommendations to other stakeholders to ensure that, you know, children can learn in a better ambience. So really, we are the monitors. We also, you know, for example, we do investigation. So in my department, for example, when they say a school has been blown, the roof has been blown off, or vandalism occurred in a school, my department and my officials are responsible to go into those schools and see what it is and write a report, propose necessary action that will be implemented by, you know, the other stakeholders or other departments for action. So really, we are a core part of teaching and learning in every state where suburb is.
Okay, thank you so much for that information. Off the top of my head, there are quite a number of areas that you have touched on, which I was hoping that we were going to go into. So it's a good thing that you have touched on those areas. Yesterday, when I was talking to Ade Fakoya, who is a teacher, she made a statement. She said that the whole system is broken down and we need to come to that realization so that we can start to look into how to build it up again. And I know for a fact that Lagos State has started to look into this situation. Help me understand now that we've at least been able to establish that there's a good level of focus in the education sector for Lagos State. What are the steps, apart from the quality assurance areas, what are the steps that the government is looking into producing as much of restitution, as much of rehabilitation into that sector?
I'm excited about this actually, and I'm delighted to share a lot of the goals and what is going on. You may not have seen the impact yet, because when you're building a house, there are different levels and phases to construction. First, if it's a high-rise building that you're building, you first need to do a soil test. So when you do a soil test, what you will call in education need assessment, and you know, you identify what is going on. Then you begin your work. You do your piling. When you leave your piling, you go into your foundation, then you fill your foundation up, then you do your German floor, and then you start setting blocks, and then you cut out your window, you do your lintel, and then you go into the building. Why am I saying that? That is exactly the same phase when you're transforming and reforming education. I had the privilege of being part of the team that sat together to write the manifesto and the policy document for the current administration, led by Mr. Olusola Sanwo-Olu. And from day one, Mr. Governor had said that he wants one of his legacy to be the transformation of education in Lagos State, to change education in Lagos State in a way that has been unprecedented and never before experienced. So that is the mandate of all of us at SUBEB now. Now, what is the specifics of what we are doing? For example, we first looked at and said, what are the issues affecting education? First is the issue of teachers' welfare, teachers' satisfaction, and teachers' capacity, and all of that. So we put that on one side. Second also is the big issue of infrastructure and the ambience and the environment where teaching and learning is taking place.
Yeah. Also
is in the area of content and curriculum. So welfare, infrastructure, and content, which is curriculum, among many other things. So what does that do for us? As a result of that, our first project was to launch a program called EcoExcel. What is EcoExcel about? EcoExcel is excellence in child education and learning. What is the component of EcoExcel? EcoExcel has various components. One of the components, for example, is the digitalization of teaching and learning in Lagos State. Yeah. Why is that important? Child in Igbogo Primary School in Lagos State and a child in Badagry Primary School in the same Lagos State, in the past were learning two different things, but were sitting for the same exam. So, for example, because the class teacher in Igbogo would be the one to write lesson notes after teaching, and then on the way home have to deal with the traffic on Lagos roads, and then get home and be too tired to really give quality content for the children, get to school the next day and is taking a lot of things, but is bewildered by the content that they are providing, having to write their lesson notes. So we had to mark that away and say, you know what, let's help the teachers develop lesson materials, instructional content that they can now build upon while they are teaching the children and young people. So the first part of the EcoExcel was to give each and every teacher a training, you understand, on new modes of learning. We now handed them a tab that digitalizes every critical component of basic education in Lagos State. What is the first thing? Number one, the tab contains lesson notes, materials, and content. So a teacher doesn't necessarily have to write their own lesson notes themselves. The material is already there in the tab. Either you are in Ajanle Koko, you are in Alagbado, or you are in Badagry, or you are in Ikorodu. You just turn on your tab. Every week, the content for the whole week is downloaded into your tab. The tab is also battery effective. I think it's solar powered and will last you with the battery. It's like a Kindle for about 2 to 3 weeks. I think it's 14 days that it lasts you. Now, in the tab, you have your lesson notes. You get into the class, you teach the children, and it is what they are teaching in this school, they're teaching in the other school. Why is that important? Before, you have this child go to school. The teacher teaches him based on what he writes or what is in the mood to teach today, can teach you about soil and stop somewhere, or maybe not come tomorrow. The challenge with that is that after that is done, all of the children sit down to do the same examination. Yeah. They learn differently, but they do the same exam. And you expect the same quality of result from them. That's not possible. But with a EcoExcel, every child is learning the same thing in all our schools in Lagos State, because they're also going to be doing unified examination at the end of the academic term in Lagos State. So everybody can have equal opportunity and fairness and equity. That's the first thing. Apart from the content on the tab also takes attendance. So for example, in the morning, the tab contains the picture and the detail of all the children in the class. The address of the parents, the phone number of the parent. So in the morning, you take attendance of the child in your class. I believe during break time, when they come back from break, I think it also takes attendance at that. I think it's about 2 to 3 times. What does that do? So you know that this child was in the school for this lecture on this particular day. During break time, they did not run away. You know that they are also able to attend that lecture. So, for example, if a child's parent moves from Surulere and moves to Ikorodu because they just built a bungalow in Ikorodu for them to live, the child is not going to miss anything because what he learned in school the last week before they moved in his school in Surulere is the same thing. The next lecture is the same thing he's going to have in Ikorodu. Unified and simplified lesson materials, lesson content, also doing attendance. Now, attendance of the children is one. Attendance of the teacher is also captured because the tab is geolocated. If you wake up in your house and you sign in, it will tell us from the central server that you are signing in 5 kilometers away from the school compound.
Oh, wow.
Because the head teacher has a central tab that connects. So when you get into the school in the morning, you have to sync with the head teacher's tab in the morning. That way we know that you are actually in the school compound. And it tells us where you are and where you have signed in from as a teacher. So teachers cannot also escape coming to school. Of course, except they now begin to devise any other evil means in the future. But with the system we have created, it also helps us know where the teacher is. Now, that's not even the icing on the cake. The icing on the cake is that a teacher who is teaching in any of our Eco-Excel primary school in Lagos State has not just the content, but also the timing. So it says you are teaching comprehension. This lesson should take 20 minutes. If you teach that lesson in 5 minutes, it would tell us in the central server at Eco-Excel Secretariat under SUBE that you have just conducted an incomplete tutorial. You were meant to teach this for 20 minutes. You have only taught this for 5 minutes. So that's one part of what we have introduced, and it is already in about 300 schools. By now, we should be in about 700 schools. We're supposed to train another teacher from a set of teachers from 500 schools in April, but the COVID issue affected us, so we had to postpone that as well. By September was our target to have included all the primary schools in Lagos State as an Eco-Excel school. So we talk about the issues of digitalization, attendance, tutorials, and lesson is core part of Eco-Excel. Another part of Eco-Excel is the teaching culture. Before, if a child answers the question wrongly, they will say, that is ending in our primary school, at least in all our 300 Eco-Excel schools. Every of our Eco-Excel school has a character board on the wall. Every of our Eco-Excel school has a character board. The teachers were trained for 2-3 weeks in the new culture to be able to engage the children. So, for example, if I say, if I say, Teacher Laya, what is 2 plus 2? Please answer me, ma'am.
4, sir.
My response would be, good job, you, Titi Laya. If you say, I don't know it, the teacher is supposed to say, the answer is 4. Not to say, oh, so what are you using your brain to do? The teacher is meant to correct you. And if you get it right, the teacher is meant to say, good job, you. When I say good job, you say, good job, me. Good job, you.
Good job, you. I say, yay.
Oh, you say, good job. You say, good job, me.
Okay, good job.
Say, you.
Right. Good job,
you.
Good job, me.
Excellent.
Okay.
So that's the new culture in our classrooms in Lagos. When a child passes the question, answers the question correctly, the teacher will say, good job, you. The children and everybody in the class will say, good job, me. If a child is sitting like this, you have to say to the child, sit tall. That means that sit upright. Okay. There are cultures that have changed in the way that the teacher relates to the children. When we say sit tall to any public primary school children, where there's an Eco-Excel school, they will respond back and sit up. Also, there are many chairs that we have. In the morning, at the beginning of lecture, all the teachers must cheer the children and motivate them. They always sing a song in all our Eco-Excel school. Go and meet any child in any public primary school that is already absorbed into the Eco-Excel model, and say, I am special. They'll sing the song to you. I am special. I am special. Look at me. You will see someone very special. Someone very special because it's me. Because it's me. And then you say, we have different other chairs and chant, kwa, kwa, and different things that is now making the classroom very interesting. We're making school interesting to attend. Now, we didn't stop there in Lagos. While we're changing the culture of relationship between teachers and students and making classroom more interactive for the children, even in the way they sit. Oh, I forgot about the point. When you answer a question right, your role is going to get a point of mark on the character board. If 3 people on that row gets a question right, you all will get a strike point. Those are part of the things.
Teamwork. You're promoting teamwork, right?
And part of the benefit of that is that you have your name on the character board in the classroom. This is existing in all our 300 public primary schools in Lagos State and already a co-excel model. And we're going to reach all the remaining schools by the grace of God if COVID doesn't stop public gathering, to be able to bring about another 10,000 teachers together before the end of the year. Otherwise, it will be next year or after COVID. That's sort of what we have done. Now, beyond the classroom, we're also looking at, for example, infrastructure. So, but you know that this is tied to money.
Yes.
We have every year from based on our UBEC funding, we have schools that we have recommended for renovation. So, for example, this year, about 56 schools received attention and renovation. Some brand new schools were built, some 12 plus 1 classroom, some 21 plus 1 classroom. Some schools were given fences with gates, gatehouse, and all of that. Part of what we're also doing with administration. Beyond what UBEC, which is the federal government, is giving us money to build, the state government also has a system called SCRIP, Special Committee for the Rehabilitation of Public Schools, and they are also building secondary schools and primary schools. Let me tell you what, Mr. Governor, for the first time in about 20 years of our democracy, Mr. Governor has moved education budget, I believe, from 8% to 12%. There are 2 budgets that have been moved, education and health, so I mix them up sometimes. One was in 8%, one was in 12%. He moved one from 8 to 12, another one from 12 to 18. I'm not sure if it's education that moved to 18 or 12, but education budget has been moved by at least 7%, over 130 billion.
Wow.
For education in Lagos State. And with that, they're doing so much. We're building schools, we're renovating schools, we're doing classrooms, we're empowering teachers, we're supporting people in the local government. For example, at SUBEB level, we have just revealed the, what do they call it again? Running cost for the local government education authorities, the ESCs, to be able to make it up to par, based on the, the technicalities of your environment. Let me tell you one thing we also do in my department. We monitor riverine communities. So we go into schools in the riverine community, like in Badagry, in Ekpe, schools that you have to go by canoe to ensure that they have quality education. Of course, there's still infrastructure deficit because of money. But the reality is that we're getting there. So under our last activities infrastructure-wise, we did about 50 to 80 schools that received some form of intervention. There are some were benches that were supplied, some were fences that was made. But it's every year that we'll do another set, another set, another set. We've just commenced one in January that is wrapping up. By end of the year, early next year, another set will happen. So any school that did not receive attention in this local government at this time will get attention next year. Now, we are also getting legislative support. Senator Tinubu, for example, mommy, Senator for Lagos Central, Tinubu, just provided free public toilets in about 10 primary schools in Lagos State under our constituency project funded by the federal government. So there's a lot, but you must understand we have 1,016 public primary schools in Lagos State. So you cannot do everything at once. We don't have all the money, but you can do it at your own pace. So that's in terms of issue of infrastructure. Issue of content, we're also ensuring that content is being, curriculum and content is being upgraded to be able to ensure that, you know, children are learning for the future.
Yes.
We have Code Lagos.
Yes.
That, you know, we also have extracurricular activities and co-curricular activities which we're teaching children and young people. You may not see the impact yet because only 300 out of the 1,016 schools have been absorbed into a co-excel, and we only launched the co-excel in January.
Yes.
So right now, COVID interrupted what would have improved and our key way monitoring and evaluation to see the impact of it on our schools. But those investments has been made over the last few months in ensuring that primary schools in Lagos State, public primary schools, can compete with the private school. When a co-excel is fully implemented,
yes,
by the grace of the Almighty God, let me tell you what has happened as a result of the introduction of a co-excel. Many parents have gone to remove their children from low-cost primary schools and brought them into the public primary schools in Lagos State, because the value of what we are now providing in our school is exceptional. Yes, you will still see some schools with bad decades and roof. The issue is we are aware of it. We still had a meeting with the governor on Friday where we were discussing all of these things, and governor already riot act and said, we must fix this. With the resources available, we'll keep doing more as we can, as much as we can, and God will help us. And finally, before you throw me all the questions that you have, because I know you already have a lot, we're also doing a lot in terms of welfare. Governor has a vision. Number one, Lagos doesn't hold salary. That's a start. All our teachers get their money.
Fantastic.
Part of the issues that the government is also doing is to make sure that the welfare of our workers, which is part of our teachers, is adequately taken care of. So it's fixing roads. We're doing the regional road in Lekki for those who live in Ekpe and that access. We're doing the Badagry Expressway, fixing some roads, you know, by the Public Work Agency. Because when the roads are good, it's easy for the teachers to be able to go to school, come back on time, without spending too much in traffic, and be able to have more time to improve themselves so that they can impart that knowledge onto the children. But beyond that also, the deputy governor has voted the idea of us even building some school quarters, some teachers' quarters in schools that have big compound, so that teachers can stay in the school compound during the week, and at weekend they can go back to various houses. It also decreases the pressure on our roads. So there's a whole, system being put in place. But like I told you, remember my first analogy was the building. You will see the piling being done. When the piling is being done, you have not seen the house, but they could have spent 100 million on just piling. The deeper is going, money is going into the ground. It is the foundation. Where even when the foundation is being built, you won't have seen any structure when they are doing the German floor and the foundation. It looks like caca. What is really going on? Because we're doing the basic at the bottom. Thank you.
My gosh, you have really rolled out so much information within a very short period of time. Might I add that most of the questions that I was going to ask was actually bordering on a lot of things that you have touched on. You have touched on the welfare. You've touched on the self-esteem, ability to be able to build a sense of self-esteem and aspiration in the minds of people who are called teachers in Lagos State, at least to start with Lagos State. You have talked about the curriculum, although I would love to ask, because one of the things that I had yesterday from one of the practitioners is that the content of the curriculum is being designed by people that are not active practitioners in the industry. I'd like to know if that is correct, and if that is, why is it so? Also, I'd like to know in the area of regulation, the regulatory body or a professional body, why can't we have a professional body that encourages advancement, that encourages building up in terms of learning and development for the teachers, where it is that they can even attain heights like a charter institute? Why can't we have that sort of thing? And also, what are the code of conducts that are required by the governing body, which is NUT? So let's start with the first thing.
NUT, okay, so there's a lot of question there.
Yeah.
So I would explain some of them.
Yeah.
So NUT, let me see. You also talked about governing body, that's TRCN.
So the first was about the content. What makes up the
content curriculum?
Who draw up and design the curriculum for these schools? Are they practitioners who are aware and they have on the go experience to be able to throw back their inputs?
Thank you. So I'm going to take all your questions again because many of them will overlap. First is the fact that NUT is not the regulatory body. NUT is only a labor union. It is an association of teachers to advocate for the welfare of their members. So they're not the governing body for teachers.
Right.
The governing body for teachers is TRCN, the Teachers Regulatory Council of Nigeria. And they are based in Abuja. And also the National Council for Education, NCE. So, for example, for us in Lagos, I also forgot that part of what we have also done, part of the mandate the governor gave to us, is to be able to cut down the teacher-to-student ratio. So, for example, we are trying to, if a school, for example, in the past had 80 students in the class, we're trying to cut that down to about 40 or 50 or 55. All of this is based on infrastructure. Many times when you see a crowded classroom in Lagos, I can assure you that most of those classrooms, from my little experiences I got on this role, are not necessarily the school permanent classes. They are largely, most of the time, multi-school classroom. Let me give you an example. A few months ago, members of my team, the quality assurance department, went to a school in Ifako. When we got to the school in Ifako, we saw almost like lots of children in the class, and they were divided by some woods. So one class here, one class here. And we began to inquire, this is wrong. They said, no, they are building their new school across. And in that same company, there was a brand new school, which was already ready. So my Kiwi officers then asked and said, why are they not in their school now? The building is ready. They said they were waiting for the LES and the chairman to come and hand over the school for them. So they brought it to my attention immediately, because one of the things that I've done with the people in my department is to digitalize the way that we monitor and we conduct our keyway exercise. I'll come to that later. It's a lot of process. I need to tell you what actually goes on in keyway monitoring in Lagos State. So things, for example, like daily monitoring, Riverine, CKeyway, continuous quality assurance, school self-monitoring, school self-evaluation, and all that. Let me write that down. Okay, so we realized that the school was actually ready. So I told the chairman immediately. Chairman immediately called the ES, which is the Education Secretary for the local government, and immediately they released the school facility. They opened the door, and the children were able to move into a brand new school, part of the school that the governor commissioned during the 1-year anniversary. So what am I saying? The teacher-to-student ratio is one of the things that we are trying to decrease in Lagos. Now, how are we doing that? One of the things we are doing is that we're recruiting currently 2,000 teachers. We have already recruited. They are at the final phase. Let me tell you, about 48,000 people applied for that job.
Are those teachers from, are they graduates of education, or are they graduates from different industries?
Now, we are in charge now, we're passionate about education. We don't take nonsense. So we had a prerequisite. We had 48,000 people apply. And part of the way we were able to cut it down into a sizable numbers was that we had some prerequisites that were mandatory. You had to have studied education. You must have a minimum of an NCE. We don't care if you have a master's in anything. If you don't have an NCE, which is the National Certificate for Education, you cannot teach in this our current recruitment that we just completed. So NCE was a mandatory requirement for you. That was one. The second requirement we also advertised was that you must have been registered with the TRCN. That's where I'm going to. The Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. It is the professional body. It is like being a member of the NSC, National Society for Engineers, or being a member of the, what's the one for HR? this what's this CIPM, Challenge of Personnel Management.
Personnel Management. Okay.
Yeah. So the TRCN is that organization for, my wife was just reminding me, was the CIPM. Is the professional organization for teachers. The Teachers Recruitment Council of Nigeria. They focus on teachers' empowerment, teachers' capacity. It's like an association. They are the regulatory body, but they don't do it alone. The UBE itself and SUBEB also focus on building capacity of teachers. So I'll give you an example. Under my department alone, we train teachers in Jollyphonics. We train teachers in SMASE. SMASE is strengthening maths and science education at the NTI in Kaduna.
Okay.
In Lagos alone, we have the MOCPED, Mobolaji, I think it's Mobolaji Johnson College of Primary Education.
Okay.
Michael Otedola
College of Education. Okay.
College of Primary Education, not just even education, primary education. So there are different structures and governmental systems that builds the capacity at the state level, at the federal government level, at the NTI level, and even at the SUBEB level. We have what we call cluster training that we do, to specially focus on the capacity of our teachers. So we do all of those things. So NUT is not necessarily the governing body, it's just an association that advocates and say, okay, this new rule, is it going to protect our teachers? Is it going to ensure that our teachers do not lose their job? That's their own role. Now, like I said to you, we have a mandatory requirement that you must have NCE to begin to teach in the new Lagos. And that's what we're doing. Also focus on teacher self-esteem and even monitor self-esteem by ensuring that they have access to many other things. As teachers in the state, they get, for example, in Lagos, there's so many opportunities that you also get as a teacher in Lagos. And in curriculum we're talking about, I do not believe, and I totally can say that it is doubtful, because I know, for example, my director for quality assurance in SUBEB attends a National Council of Education meeting. I think the last one was in Port Harcourt, where they discuss education issues at the highest level. All the state comes, all the commissioners and the SUBEB comes, and they discuss the curriculum, how schools will be taught and all of that. But the challenge is, beyond the governmental stakeholders, there are also other stakeholders like civil societies and stuff who play a role in these decisions. Associations. So there's a lot of, politics around all of those things as well.
Okay.
You understand? So, factors. But every system, no matter what, needs to be upgraded. Also, don't forget a lot of the people. So, for example, if you look at people who have been professors and all these leaders and ministers, many of them have been blessed with age, and the world is changing. But sometimes some of the eminent leaders, the way they adapt to change is not the way that we would expect to see it. So we must also give gap for all of those. I'll give you an example. History was just brought back into the curriculum. They have not begun to implement it yet, but history is now back in our curriculum. Why would we take away from the curriculum in the first instance?
Exactly.
You have to respect political and other cultural and social factors. So, Nigeria is a complex country.
That's why it is important and imperative that at each point in time, the content of the curriculum is reviewed. And no other person than those who are in the sitting classes and those who also relate with all of the other variables or the other stakeholders to be able to understand what is pressing, what is prevailing, so that there's a knowledge about it and they can create, the items, they can create content based on it. I have a question from somebody who's saying that in the spirit of reducing the teacher to student ratio, is there a consideration to increase the use of digital delivery of education in our public schools? Because if you're saying that we're reducing the ratio, how do we effectively design the engagement?
So let me break it down for you. There's ideal and there's reality. So let's first deal with the ideal.
Okay.
Teacher to children ratio largely first in the classroom. So you have to have more facilities.
Right.
So we're building more schools, for example, which means more classrooms. It depends on the facility and the land. And one of the factors that determine how many schools is being built is really the land. So for example, you get into this compound and you do a soil test and you realize that this compound cannot carry a multi-story classroom. We can only do a bungalow building here. So most likely that facility will get a 6+1. A 6 classroom school, for example, meaning it can only have primary 1, primary 2, primary 3, 1 classroom each, and maybe ECCD because of the space. Some area might be able to get a bigger building, maybe it's dry land and all of that. But if we can have more facilities, we are also trying to get more teachers. Like I said, we just recruited 2,000 to the number of teachers we already have. But we didn't stop at that. The governor also gave approval for the conversion of 1,000 non-teaching staff to become teaching staff. What does that mean?
Okay.
It means that 1,000 people who got into the education sector of Lagos State either has admin assistant or this or that, but went on to get a degree in education, went on to get an NCE and a master's in education and improve themselves, but they are still doing admin job. They are still doing clerical job and desk job, but they have already improved themselves and they have a higher degree in education. The governor has approved for them to be converted to teaching staff.
They have experience in the field.
Anyway, let me shock you. Some of them are even already teaching the children already because they already have that stuff. But maybe because they didn't get approval or they got approval to go and do those training and all of that, the governor has approved for 1,000 of them to be converted. So technically, we have 3,000 brand new teachers going into our public primary schools in Lagos State. And we're sharing them based on need basis. So we look at the data. This is the number of children in this school. This is the ratio of teacher to children. Okay, let's give them 2 more teachers. Let's give them this. Of course, it will not satisfy everything. The governor has also given blanket approval for replacement exercise. So apart from recruitment exercise, if let's say a level 17 retires, the salary of that level 17 may be able to hire another 5 level 8 or 2 level 8 or 1 level 8. So we are also able to recruit replace those people who are retiring. I understand that last year and this year there have been a lot of people who have retired or retiring from our public primary schools. They are also going to get to be able to be replaced with the approval from Mr. Governor. So those are part of the things that are going on in our public primary school in ensuring that we can deal with teacher to student ratio. Now, when we talk about digital technology, it's not something we're looking into. Like I said, we're already digitalizing the way that we're teaching with the Eco Excel tabs and all of that. Even right now, people are still learning at home. Our pupils are learning at home.
Yes.
We have, for example, about 3 or 4 programs. We have our Cocoa program going on radio in local dialect and in Yoruba and all of that. We also have our Eco Excel at home, which is on the website that is digitalized. So you can go on the website and take your lectures and your courses, your materials and your teachings and all of that.
What's the website?
We are also on radio. I think it's ecoexcel.com.ng.
Okay.
I think it's ecoexcel.
That's for everybody to hear.
.ng. And also, we are on radio, what we call IRI, instructional radio. What's RIRI? Instructional interactive radio instructions.
Okay.
Interactive radio instruction. So we are about 3 or 4 radio stations. I think we're where we're teaching children every day, and we're also on television. We're on LTV8, and on LTV you can watch from Sky DSTV. You can watch on terrestrial channel and all of that. So there are many platforms through which we're teaching our young people during this COVID. So being at home does not mean that they're not learning. We have classroom in your home program ongoing, and we have used radio so that even if you didn't have light in your house, you can use your transistor radio. Let me help you. An ordinary small radio phone that 3,000 naira phone they sell in the bus stop. You can connect a radio with it, and with that you can hear a co-FM and all of that, and hear the lectures that we're doing there. Because education is paramount to Mr. Governor.
Because I think that the content and the message, the learnings is actually targeted towards those that are in key stages of learning. So maybe it's designed for those in primary 6 who are leaving school is it for every level?
They have for every level. As a matter of fact, it was on the news yesterday. We're starting a new program for children with disabilities and special needs.
Okay.
Even though our current program is already doing sign languages, we want to focus on children who even have dyslexia or autistic and all of that.
That's very good. That's very good. Okay. Well,
yeah. That we must leave no child behind. That is the goal of this current board, led by Honorable Wahab King.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dayo Israel. In the scheme of things, you know that in the West they have schools, they have programs that are targeted towards children that have genius abilities, maybe in science and technology and engineering and maths. What sort of focus do teachers have? Do they have the ability to be able to focus and create interventions for special children who are genius, you know, like that? Is there any plan or arrangements towards
if you see, I didn't quite get your question.
Well, because it's in the West, there are schools called STEM schools that focus on training children with propensity for science and technology. Do we have any interventions like this in the schools?
So while we don't necessarily have a STEM school, we have STEM programs. We have STEM activities, especially for our children who are gifted in those areas. So like I said, we have a whole department called co-curricular department in SUBE. So it's co-curricular, it's alongside with what you're learning, your normal classes. And we're focusing on ensuring that we can develop, that's why I talked about cognitive, affective, and psychomotive. You understand? Ensuring that we're able to build other capacities, even sports potentials. We're trying to focus on all of those areas and those elements to be able to build the total child to be effective. You understand? I told you that in my department, we train teachers in SMART, strengthening maths and science education. So why? Because they are responsible for delivering our STEM program, and we build their capacity to that extent as well.
So thank you. I just want to quickly rush because we're going to go out very soon. Our 1 hour is going to go off very soon. So in terms of the welfare, there's been a review in the salary structures, I believe, for teachers, just to make it a little bit more attractive for those young graduates to penetrate and get entry into the industry. Is that right?
I know that the governor is doing a lot. I'll give you an example. When we launched EcoExcel some months ago, governor came and announced brand new cars for the best teachers in all the local government in Lagos. So that's 20 brand new cars. There are many programs and activities to encourage our teachers to give their best. We just recently awarded a teacher who out of our own intuition began to teach children on Facebook as a result of the coronavirus lockdown. So we usually do a lot. The governor has great ideas and great interest to ensure that children in Lagos are able to get the best of education with the partnership and support of the teachers. So I must also tell you that this is it's about leadership.
Yes.
When you have the right kind of leadership,
yes,
you will see the result. Yes. So the leadership right now is.
Yeah. I see that's
no. Go ahead, man.
Where it is that we're going. As long as we have the ability to address the leadership gaps, and we can get these young ones to be more attracted to leading and also teaching, we will have good quality channels of products in our kids as much as possible. A lot of people have related. They've taken teaching as a way out, just to make money or just to earn something. It's not like they're passionate about it, but there are people who are genuinely passionate about imparting knowledge. And we want to make it as attractive as possible for them. And I want to thank you so much for all that you have shared with us. It's a lot to take. I know that it's not something that we can fully interrogate within 1 hour, and I know that you have another session that you need to go through. But thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for sharing. I would have loved to ask how we can professionalize this industry. You know, just like we can have chartered accountants, we can have chartered secretaries. Why can't we have chartered teachers? Why can't they go up the ladder and understand that they can advance themselves in their careers? Do you understand?
Let me respond to that quickly. That is what TLCN is doing. And as a matter of fact, Lagos is also doing something in that regard. Before, a teacher, even up to level 17, couldn't go higher. You know what Lagos State did? No. Lagos State now created what we call Tutor General Permanent Secretary, TGPS.
Okay.
So teachers began to get to the position of permanent secretary in the civil service. It wasn't just about getting to become headmasters and headmistresses. So in Lagos, we have 6 TGPS who manages the secondary schools in the 6 different districts. They are former teachers and former principals who have now become Tutor General Permanent Secretary in Lagos State. So we're making education in Lagos State become more attractive.
Fantastic, fantastic.
I know our time is past.
It sounds like a real robust plan. Thank you so much, Dayo Israel, for joining in and for the questions. Thank you, Rotimi Eyitayo. Thank you, Honorable Pepe, Michael Ayimofe, always been there. DK Kucho, Nonoma Mose. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. Aki A, thank you so much for the question. Lagos State government is really doing a lot to improve education in the state. Good job, the Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu administration. So that's a plus to you there, Mr. Dayo Israel. It is our hope that all what you have put together and what is in the pipeline will efficate and will result into goodness, into something that will be worthwhile and of value for every one of us. I know that once Lagos grasps the model, it will be replicated across the country. We have practitioners and stakeholders like the ones that we have spoken to yesterday who are also putting their hands on deck and waiting for what the government is yet to provide. So it sounds like you have it all together. It sounds like the enabling environment is already budding. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 thing kind of stilted and is still stagnating, but we will rise above it and we will reach the promised land by the grace of God. Once again, thank you so much for the time, and I wish you all the best. And I pray that God continues to guide and uphold you all in the superb space. Our salute to Honorable Alawiye King as well, as we see that there's so much that you're running out there, but all the best. Have a good weekend. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. And you can reach us. You can go through the video, join us. You can follow us on our various social media handles. Titi at Talks with Titi Layo. We're also on Twitter at Talks with Titi. And we also have a YouTube channel right now that we have started to throw in all of the videos. So have a good week and stay safe, be as COVID compliant as possible, and may we all survive this by the grace of God. Bye-bye for now.